So, My Hero Academia Vigilantes Manga Chapter 94 is out, and all I can really say is this.
Disappointed!
Yeah. Let's get to the intro. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Big Blue Drew 97 here, coming at you with another manga review for My Hero Academia Vigilantes, manga chapter 94, titled The Underground Masquerade Case. And like the intro said, for me, this chapter was a little bit disappointing. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a horrible or really even a bad chapter of My Hero Academia Vigilantes. There's a lot of interesting stuff in this chapter, and I find a lot of it interesting. It's just, this chapter basically ends the flashback that we've been in for like the past few months, and I think it ends on, not necessarily ends on a disappointing moment, because the last part of this chapter is very impactful. It's just I expected a little bit more from this chapter than what we got, and a little bit more from this flashback than we actually got, but what we got was still really good. So before I get into review, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't done so, to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Big Blue Drew 97, as well as leave a like and a comment down below on this video if you like this type of content. We start off with the cover page with the title and the Vigilantes symbol, where we see Tanuma and Ripper, also known as O'Clock, talking about most likely everything that went down in that parking garage, as well as we get kind of like a recap of everything that All Might did in Osaka. They have like someone announcing, it's like, All Might is so amazing, All Might is so great, he took down 100 villains, which is a new personal best, and after he took down the heroes, he reinforced some of the buildings that were damaged and saved those that were injured and in care. Oh man, he's the greatest hero ever. Just complimenting All Might, saying everything that is true about him. But what is interesting about that is also we get to see Mighty sleep, so he is flying while sleeping. Still a little bit irritated about that. But what is interesting is that we get to see like the real like origins of Fat Gum, and how this incident in Osaka and meeting All Might and seeing how great All Might is caused him to be the Fat Gum that we know and love. As he's eating his takoyaki, he's like, man, that guy was amazing, and I was totally trounced by those villains. You know what? I need to get big too. And he starts eating takoyaki after takoyaki after takoyaki, and the little kids are eating with him, and he asks this lady, ma'am, 10 more boxes, and she's like, you got it. So this is like the origins of Fat Gum as the big hero, the overweight hero, the BMI hero. This is where he started, and it was his interaction with All Might, as well as his masquerade incident that he knows nothing about, and all of these villains flooding the street, that causes him to be the Fat Gum that we know and love. So I find that to be interesting, and that is cool that we get a little bit more Fat Gum's backstory in this flashback. And what is even more interesting is that we also get to see this hooded Nomu and the aftermath of what happened after he was brought back to All for One. Because this hooded Nomu, he's like, oh, or sorry, not the hooded Nomu, but this hooded figure. We don't even know he's a Nomu, most likely he is. But this hooded figure is so mad, he's like, man, I wanted to fight. I could have taken him down. Let me go. And All for One takes him down in an instant. And from what it seems to be, takes away his quirk, or at least paralyzes him to some extent, using All for One in a certain growth expanding quirk, most likely the shape-shifting quirk that he got from this Nomu. And he just basically talks down to him. He's like, man, I thought you were gonna be good. I thought that power was gonna be good for you. I thought you were wanting to brawl with me good, but it just didn't match with this quirk. Couldn't even be a really usable pawn. Alright, let's send him back to the Dr. Kodagiri, and he just sends him to the doctor, which we know as Kudagraki, to have him be modified. And from here, we get All for One. He basically, after he does that to this hooded figure, he just sits down. He's like, well, you know, I'm patient. I can't wait to get that overclock quirk, because I know exactly what to do with it when I get to it. So that's basically what he says to Kodagiri. And Kurogiri's response is like, are you still wanting that ability? He's like, yeah. And I wonder what his plan was for Overclock, the quirk. I don't know. It's not like we know anyone in the story right now that has the quirk, so we just will never know. We won't get that answer in the flashback, especially in this chapter. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But yeah, from after we see the All for One stuff, we cut back over to the present where we get to see O'Clock talking with Tiger Bunny and Rapper, as they're basically talking about how everything is cooled down and how O'Clock is talking to Tiger Bunny. He's like, you know, because you helped me in there, I can put in a word for you and you could probably get paid for this. And we get a little bit more development from Tiger Bunny where she's like, nah, if I'm gonna earn money, I'm gonna do it all by myself. But, you know, I'm about to go, but next time you see me, I'll be a full-blown hero. As we see Tiger Bunny taking off her mask, as she's also talking to Rapper, and he's like, what are you gonna do? And he's like, I don't know, I'm probably gonna keep doing the same old. And she's like, well, anyway, with her face revealed, I'll make sure to save the deadly kicks for the less deadly kicks for guys like you, as it is revealed that Tiger Bunny is a young version of Mirko. Gasp, shock, surprise, audible noise coming from excitement from not knowing a piece of information. Yeah, we all knew it was Mirko, but it's just cool to see her face and get to see her, like, how she looked when she was younger. It's cool, and just getting more characterization of Mirko as a character in Vigilantes is always cool. And we even get more characterization of Rapper, as well, as O'Clock turns over to Rapper and is like, oh, so what are you gonna do? You know, like, the masquerade thing, it's over, it's a front. And Rapper's like, it doesn't matter, I'm probably gonna keep doing the same old. And O'Clock's like, you know, like, there's stuff bigger than this. Like, are you gonna join another one? He's like, yeah, I'll keep doing what I'm doing, and I'll continue doing what I'm doing. But, you know, one thing though, the next time we meet, if we ever cross paths again, I'm playing for keeps, as Rapper also takes off his mask. And I think this may be the first time we actually see Rapper, aka Rapper, without his mask on, and we actually get to see a good look at his face. It's very muscular, it looks a little bit more demonic, but it's very cool that we get to see more of his face in this chapter. So at the very least, we get the face reveal of Rapper. We don't get the face reveal of All for One though, and this chapter teased it a lot. I mean a lot. We saw like multiple sides of him with the shading in different areas, getting small pieces of his actual face revealed this entire chapter, but not getting the actual face reveal. So sad. So sad. And because the flashback's over, we probably never will see it. Anyway, we cut over to the next day where apparently O'Clock is there. Yeah, we all know it was Ripper is O'Clock. And from here, we get a little bit more understanding of who O'Clock is, or kind of acts when it comes to heroism. He's the type of person that doesn't really go in head first. He always uses it for stealth and info gathering, which makes sense if you can like freeze time, and because of how his quirk works, he thinks like extremely quickly. It makes sense that he would be good for that type of thing. But then after he met up with the people fighting this hooded figure, he realized that his bread and butter, which would be intel gathering, may not necessarily be the case anymore. As he's talking to Tanuma, who is listening to O'Clock say this, is like, so, do you want to divulge those people's information, your acquaintances? He's like, nah, I think I'm going to keep this all to myself, because he comes to realize that whoever was in charge of the masquerade has something bigger. He's like the big master planner of all of this entire incident. And if I tell y'all, there's no way that y'all will be able to outsmart him. So I'm just going to keep this to myself. As Tanuma's looking at him and is like, are you sure? You're just being cautious, aren't you? And O'Clock is like, yeah, but you know, being cautious really isn't enough. And he gives like a small explanation of like what he really needs. He says that he needs audacity, he needs freedom, he needs diversity, but most of all, he needs imagination, maybe. And I find this to be very interesting, because I think that imagination thing kind of ties into like how Knuckle Duster fights and how Knuckle Duster gathers information, because he does it really in creative ways. Like, he looks at people's tongue, he beats people up, and even when he tried to save his daughter, he did it in a very inventive way. You could say he used his imagination to do so. And I think that this idea kind of ties this version of O'Clock and still connects it to the modern version of Knuckle Duster that we know. Whether or not he's alive, we don't know, but this just shows that they are the same people. And even though the incident with All For One may have changed him, like a core part of who he is still remained in both the present and in the past. And I think that's interesting to find out from this flashback. But unfortunately, the flashback ends and returns back to present day, where we see Tanuma and the cat basically talking, and the cat wants to get Tanuma a little bit more coffee. So the flashback has ended, and like I've been saying, I'm a little disappointed by the flashback. We got a little lot of interesting characterization in the flashback. I'll say that. If anything, what was amazing about this flashback is that we get the characterization more of Tiger Bunny, also known as Miracle, of Rapper, also known as Ripper, and even just more characterization of Fat Gum slightly, All Might in his prime, as well as just O'Clock. And before he became Knuckle Duster, we got more characterization of them. Even of All For One, we get more characterization for him. I just think that overall this flashback is a little disappointing for me, because I thought that we would get more when it came to the actual plot. And we kind of get that now, but the flashback didn't necessarily need to lead to what we see now, but it kind of built upon it a little bit. So, and potentially this flashback can build on more that we get later on in Vigilantes. But we cut back over to the present, where Tanuma is basically putting everything together. So we cut back over to the present, where we have a Tanuma who's putting everything together. He realizes that the Masquerade case has strong ties to the biggest, baddest bad guy in the world, in Japan at the very least, and how it's tied to the person that All Might defeated in secret. But what is interesting in his mind is how this is kind of being the precursor to everything that has happened in the story so far. And he starts putting the pieces together more about how the Masquerade case is very parallel to what happened in the present, what happened with Narita, what happened with the modified humans, modified villains, and even with the bombing, the terrorist attack. He begins to come to a realization that this mystery behind this Masquerade, that if he solves the mystery of this masquerade, if he solves this Masquerade case fully, then he may find out who this biggest, baddest guy is. Because here's the thing, we know who it is, but the characters in the story don't know who this is. And it's very interesting to find the detective arc, and he's coming to this realization that, okay, I'm so close, everything is coming together, I'm so close. And then you have someone coming in, it's like, hey, Tanuma, hi, I have a few questions for you. And Tanuma looks over, is like, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm just the guy from the archives, and yeah, I had a questions. There's some missing stuff from this file. I just wanted to know more about it. And he's like, oh, yeah, about that. Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, I took them. But, here you go. But, I was wondering about the Osaka incident and all of this, and how these cases in Narita, they may be connected. So, I may keep those papers for a little bit longer, just to let you know. And the guy's like, yeah, no, don't worry, I'll process them. But then this guy processes them by setting them on fire, and by doing so, we see a kind of shadow on his face as a line goes through it as well, with a lightning bolt, as Tanuma calls out who this person is, and a big explosion sets the building on fire a little bit. The explosion explodes. Explosion explodes, as we see this person jump out the window, zip in a line as if he has the quirk Overclock. And it is revealed that, yeah, this person is number 6. But what is even more interesting is that we see a kind of image of O'Clock talking to number 6 and congratulating him for a job well done, and how we talk about always strike first and erase the past, and without proper information, your enemy cannot make a move. And it's weird because there's no way that this is O'Clock, because O'Clock had his quirk taken away and became Knuckle Duster, and assumingly Knuckle Duster is dead. So whatever this person is helping number 6, or whatever it is helping number 6, as number 6 is thinking to himself, yes, master, when it comes to keeping your enemy in the dark, that's how you remain free and untouchable, as the chapter ends. And yeah, a lot of questions came from that. Why did number 6 know where Tanuma is? Why did he destroy the papers? What was so important in the papers? What is the connection between number 6 and All For One? Why is there a vestige of O'Clock talking to him? Why is this person evil? So many questions come from this last page, and now you understand why I find the flashback a little bit disappointing, because this last chapter brings a whole lot of questions. The flashback doesn't answer them, and the fact of the matter is, it doesn't even provide a whole lot of context to it. All it really shows is like the case that Tanuma was thinking of, which is interesting, and like I said, we got a little bit more characterization for it, but it doesn't really tie directly into the plot, and that's really what's disappointing for me. So without the way, like I said, this is not a bad chapter. It's far from being bad. It's just disappointing for me. Sure, we got a lot of characterization with these characters throughout this entire flashback, but it doesn't directly tie into the point, and it makes me feel as if like, yeah, this is something that may tie in a little bit later, but that's not what it was perceived as first, because we thought that we were in the last parts of this story. Now we have to go back to what's going to happen with Koichi, as well as Pop Step and the others. What are they going to be doing? And now we have to think about what number 6 is going to be doing to them, and like what his goal is, what his plan is going to be moving forward when it comes to dealing with Koichi and Pop Step, and why did he even go after Tanuma? What information in that folder was so dangerous that he needed to destroy? I mean, sure, like it brings up like, yeah, information, like making sure that you don't have that information is important, but what was that information? What was in that folder that was so important? So many questions are arise, and none of it is answered with the flashback, and now we have to wait a few more weeks to even get more information on it. So that's why I'm a little bit disappointing. But all I can say is, what did you think? Are you disappointed about this chapter? Did you really like this chapter? What do you think of the person talking to number 6? Do you actually think that it's O'Clock? Do you think it's Necklace Duster? Do you think it's the vestige of the quirk Overclock? Do you think that Overclock may be evil now because of everything that All For One has done for it? What's to do with All For One and number 6? Leave your thoughts in your comments down below, as well as subscribe to my YouTube channel, and as well as ring that bell notification, do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in the next video. But until then, goodbye!